arrive either late tonight or early tomorrow morning. We are bracing and are prepared to receive a major hit. We're facing this with the seriousness it deserves, but also with the determination that we will get through this. Folks here at the EOC and our first responders throughout the west coast of Florida have been working nonstop now for weeks to prepare and respond to Hurricane Helene, and then now to prepare and respond to this new major hurricane. The common virtue has been dedication. Dedication to the task at hand, dedication to responding to help our fellow Floridians in danger, and dedication to ensuring that Florida weathers this storm and emerges stronger on the other side. We are prepared and we will respond. I've spoken to the president. We remain in regular contact with FEMA, and we are marshaling all available resources to be able to prepare and respond to Hurricane Milton. I also want to thank the 20 other states who are assisting Florida ahead of the storm. This is just what we as Americans do. We've had opportunities to help other states in the past, including most recently in Western North Carolina, and I think it shows the spirit that these states are stepping up and providing really valued support. We still have a state of emergency for 51 Florida counties. Hurricane Milton is still a major, very strong hurricane. It's currently a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. That is just a whisker shy of a Category 5. And while there is the hope that it will weaken more before landfall, there is high confidence that this hurricane is going to pack a major, major punch and do an awful lot of damage. As you can see behind me, the Florida Division of Emergency Management is fully deployed, fully active. This has been a footing now for over 2 weeks, given both of these storms. The state is actively fulfilling over 1,500 missions. We've delivered massive amounts of supplies, meals, water bottles, sandbags, tarps, generators to be able to help our local communities respond to this storm. We've also deployed more than 11,000 feet of flood protection systems and erected them around critical infrastructure like hospitals, wastewater treatment facilities, and electric infrastructure. Generators have been deployed at shelters and to support sheltering operations. Starlink internet has been deployed across the entire state of Florida. We have surged an additional 600 ambulances, and they are currently in operation helping in the effort. The state of Florida has considerable fuel reserves ahead of Milton, and it's staged, and they will be utilized as needed following the storm. We've already dispatched a lot of fuel in the lead up to this, but we still have on hand 1.6 million gallons of diesel and 1.1 million gallons of gasoline. There is no, right now, fuel shortage. However, demand has been extraordinarily high, and some gas stations have run out. To be able to help ameliorate that, the Florida Highway Patrol has facilitated 106 long-distance fuel tanker escorts with sirens getting through traffic, totaling almost 1 million gallons of gasoline from ports in Tampa, Jacksonville, Everglades, and Manatee, and they are continuing with the fuel escorts as we speak. I'm in contact with the ports on the west coast of Florida. We'll see how this storm impacts those. Clearly, there's a chance that you could have a major impact on Port Manatee as well as on Port Tampa Bay. That could interrupt their ability to receive fuel shipments. And so we're working on contingencies to be able to keep fuel flowing throughout the state of Florida. As we saw this new storm develop, it was clear that a lot of the hardest hit areas on the west coast of Florida from Hurricane Helene had not had major, robust debris removal contracts in place or operations in place. Some of these contractors were good. Some of them were not getting the job done. So you had a major hazard on barrier islands in Pinellas, Manatee, and Sarasota County. So this weekend, I authorized mandated 24/7 debris removal. We took all the Florida Department of Transportation and other agency vehicles, brought them from all across the state, and they are engaged in other missions as their normal course of business and dedicated it to debris removal. So in a little over 48 hours, and they were working all through the night in the wee hours of the morning in places like Manatee, Sarasota, and Pinellas. They were able to remove 55,000 cubic yards of debris. So that's over 3,000 truckloads of debris. And it's our estimation that on those barrier islands, they were able to make a dent in the debris and reduce it by about 50% just from what Jared Perdue and the other agencies were able to get done. So I want to thank everybody that's been involved in that. It did not stop since this weekend. We're now in a position where it's likely the conditions are going to deteriorate, and so we're going to have to wind that down. But they did make a difference, and there will be less damage from this storm as a result of getting that debris out than there otherwise would have been. The Florida Department of Transportation is staging the following assets ahead of the storm: 156 bridge inspectors, 328 cut and toss personnel, and over 1,500 pieces of heavy equipment. Florida National Guard, Florida State Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife, and the Florida Highway Patrol have activated additional personnel in advance of the storm. We have hundreds of state search and rescue personnel on hand, 26 total teams. They are currently embedded in the potential impact sites along the West Coast to begin immediate rescue operations as soon as the storm passes. The National Guard is deploying 6,000 Florida National Guardsmen as well as 3,000 National Guardsmen from other states, and so we thank for the support on that. We have 34 search and rescue that have been brought in from other states. We have 500 tactical vehicles, including 180 high water vehicles, aerial, water, and ground National Guard search and rescue teams. This is the largest Florida National Guard search and rescue mobilization in the entire history of the state of Florida. Our Florida State Guard is also deploying almost 200 soldiers, 10 maritime crews, 3 high water UTVs, 2 UH-60 Blackhawk helicopters, 4 drone teams, 15 cut and toss crews, 2 amphibious rescue crews. We want to thank them. I mean, this was just a dream a couple years ago that they would be involved, and there was a lot of unfair criticism when we stood it up, but they have made a huge difference in this hurricane season. They're going to continue to do it here. We have also worked with the utilities to have the largest staging of utility workers and linemen in advance of the storm any time in American history. We will have in Florida, by the time the storm arises, over 50,000 linemen. And those linemen are being brought in from places as far away as California. So as soon as that storm passes, you're going to see the assessments and the power restoration efforts commence immediately. Additionally, the state of Florida has assisted with the evacuation of 352 healthcare facilities in the potential path of the storm. 16 hospitals have been evacuated. The state veteran nursing homes are currently located that are in the cone, are all accepting families of their residents to shelter with them. All of those are hurricane proof. All of them are outside of flood zones. So if you do have a family member that's in one of our state nursing homes, you can go and you can shelter with them. That's a safe option, and I know the veterans would appreciate it. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is directing deployment of additional 500 out-of-state law enforcement officers. These officers will help respond after the storm to maintain law and order. And there is going to be a lot of damage from this storm. There's going to be opportunities for people to try to take advantage of that. My message to you is don't even think about it. We are going to come down hard on you. You are not going to you're going to regret that you tried to do that. So I appreciate all the other folks from out of state who are coming in to supplement this effort. We need to maintain law and order. FDLE's mutual aid team is managing more than 70 active law enforcement missions, including identifying post-storm response squads, and these are really important missions, and we're happy for that. So we're preparing for Milton, but we're also still recovering from Hurricane Helene. When Hurricane Helene hit, we reactivated the Florida Disaster Fund. We are now accepting donations into the Florida Disaster Fund for both storms, both Helene and for Milton. This is a private fund. It's affiliated with the state in terms of disaster, but it's tax deductible donations. We distributed $63 million after Hurricane Ian to help people largely in Southwest Florida. This is something that is really, really important. So I've directed Volunteer Florida to keep the fund activated for Hurricane Milton. I want to thank, there's already been millions raised for Helene. I want to thank Lennar, Wells Fargo, Walmart, and Publix for making really significant donations. And I know there's going to be a lot more that are going to want to do it. To contribute to the Florida Disaster Fund, you can text disaster to 20222, disaster to 20222, or you can visit floridadisasterfund.org. So now we're bearing down to where the storm is going to arrive within the next 24 hours. You still have time to evacuate if you are in an evacuation zone, particularly if you're in Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, those areas. I mean, this track can bounce around. It's not guaranteed it's going to hit there. A lot of the solutions have it going there. You have time to do that. Now, conditions aren't going to be great today. I would say that the roads and the interstates, they are flowing. We've waived tolls. We've done all that so people can do. But the best option would probably be just to evacuate within your own county to one of the shelters. All those counties have multiple shelters that are open. There's a lot of space in those shelters right now, and certainly it would be safe to do a very short evacuation, tens of miles, rather than get on the interstate and go. The roads are still open. People can do that, but I just want to warn people that the conditions are likely going to continue to deteriorate throughout the course of the day. We had, of course, on Monday, when the initial evacuations were coming down, particularly in the Tampa Bay area, had a lot of traffic on I-4 and on I-75. FDOT did the emergency shoulder plan. That helped, but it was slow, and those roads can be very slow anyways. By the time we got to the end of the night, through the wee hours of the morning, it was going pretty quickly. Yesterday was not as bad on those roads as it was on Monday, but what we did see is Alligator Alley down in southern Florida was about 150% of its normal capacity, and I think that's because as people saw the storm potentially bending a little further south, I think a lot of people in Southwest Florida decided to evacuate across the state, and so that's that. The roads now are good, but I would just caution the conditions are not great now, and they're likely going to get worse as the day goes on. Of course, we do have a lot of mandatory evacuations in place. If you want to get a hotel, you can go to visitflorida.com/Priceline, Expedia.com/Florida. That is the emergency accommodation module that is there. I'm not sure what availability there's going to be in a lot of these places at this point, but if that's something that you're interested in, you can try that. Of course, we've worked with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association for distress rates for hotels, as well as waiving pet fees, and I know a lot of the hotels in the state of Florida have responded very positively for that, so I just want to thank them for doing that. We've also partnered with Uber for Hurricane Milton to provide free rides to and from shelters and counties with active evacuation orders. So if you want to utilize that, you go to when you do the ride, you do the promo code Milton Relief, just one word, Milton Relief. OnStar has activated crisis mode, which provides free crisis assistance services and in-vehicle data for Chevy, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac owners. Schools, most of the school districts in the state are closed today. Obviously, if you get out of the path in like the Panhandle, not as much, but in that Florida Peninsula, virtually all school districts are closed. All Florida counties and Miccosukee and Seminole tribes are assisting the state with storm response, and I want to thank all those for their great work. We have 149 general population shelters that are open throughout the state. The current total shelter population is just 31,000 individuals. We have room in those shelters for a total population of almost 200,000 individuals. So there is space available in these shelters. I know a lot of people would rather stay in a hotel, stay with friends, and that's fine. But especially now as the storm's getting closer, you may be able to get in your car and drive 10 miles, get to a shelter, ride the storm out, and then be able to go as you see fit, and hopefully you'll be able to get back to your place very quickly. But space is available. So there are 36 county-owned special needs shelters that are open and operating in counties that are in the path of the storm. Schools and other facilities are now also being used as supplementary state-supported shelters across the state. The state of Florida has now opened 6 state-operated supplemental shelters. These may not ultimately be needed, but you have a lot of people in the evacuation zones. I think most people decided to just leave and find something on their own. We still have a lot of room in the traditional shelters, but out of an abundance of caution, we wanted to open additional options. So the 6 state-operated supplemental shelters currently are Hard Rock Event Center, 5223 Orient Road in Tampa, City Furniture, 3205 South Frontage Road in Plant City, Baycare, 1802 North Del Mabry Highway in Tampa, Life Science Logistics, 310 North Galloway Road, Lakeland, Babcock Ranch, 43281 Cypress Parkway in Punta Gorda, the Wiregrass Ranch Sports Camp, 3021 Sports Coast Way in Wesley Chapel, Florida. That site also has capabilities to service special needs individuals. And Kevin is also working on setting up a 7th site. Now, those state-supported shelters, they do have generators, so you will have access to power. I think you have Starlink at those. They've got Starlink internet. So, look, it's not the 4 seasons, but there are some things there that will make it tolerable to be able to get through the next 24 to 36 hours. You can find the shelter options at floridadisaster.org/shelters. You can also find your county's EM page at floridadisaster.org/counties, floridadisaster.org/counties. So people have time now to evacuate if they are in the area of an evacuation zone. We see the storm is a very strong Category 4. I've said from the beginning, the prognostications are it's likely going to weaken before it gets, but it may not. And even if it does weaken, it's still going to be a major, major impact. So you still have time now to make decisions to protect yourself and your family. Massive amounts of space at these shelters. The roads are flowing. The conditions are going to get bad, so you just got to be very careful with that. But certainly these shelters are a very live option. I want to just finally thank everybody. When you have these emergencies with a major hurricane, it's a huge deal. We spin up all state agencies, everyone here at the EOC, working basically round the clock. You have all the counties and cities that were in the path of Hurricane Helene, and it wasn't just the Big Bend where you took the blow. It was massive surge up and down the west coast of the Florida Peninsula. A lot of damage was done. There were thousands of rescue missions that were effectuated immediately after the storm. Huge things done, like fixing the road and SR 786, helping with the bridges. There was so much that was done in the immediate aftermath and is still being done in that. Then you have another storm that developed, and immediately you're back on that posture, round the clock, no time to rest, no time to sleep for a lot of these folks, and it's not easy. And so I just want to say, on behalf of the state of Florida, thank you for discharging your duties. Thank you for accepting this mission. It's not going to be easy, but there's no better group of people that I would want responding to this than the folks that we have doing it throughout this state. Whether you're talking about the counties down on the Gulf Coast of Florida, whether you're talking about the people that we have here assembled in Tallahassee, these folks have proven themselves. They're working hard, and we will get the job done.